Thank you. And that's how we started. So we're live now.
Okay.
All right. So hopefully someone joins us because we have not officially announced this yet.
Yeah, we're just doing it live. I've often spoken about doing it live, but I've never actually experienced doing it live. So
this is it.
This is it. I'm just gonna tweet out on our Twitter account doing it live. Can I do that?
Yeah. Be like, okay.
Doing it.
Like, we're live with topics.
Yeah. Another episode brought to you by Shaw rolling up 5 minutes before starting and putting Onimaru in a tight spot. Our number one sponsor thus far.
Don't tell anyone. I won't, no, I won't tell them if you don't. You can't expose yourself.
I'm trying to expose myself for our spontaneousness. Just like
live with various topics. With various relevant topics. All right. This is it. The spontaneous stream. All right, cool. Anyways, how's everyone doing? We got Tommy Police in the chat. Hello there. How are you? This is still the pre-show. So we're kind of live today with, like we said, various topics. We got Roger Smith in the chat. Howdy.
Oh.
How are you? Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we're really like literally doing it live. We're doing
it live. This is
just kind of chilling and talking about various topics.
What's his name? The guy that coined that?
I don't know who coined that.
No. It's what's his name? It's from Fox News.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. I know it now. I forgot the full reference, but I do know what you're talking about.
I need to find out.
Doing it live guy.
Bill O'Reilly. There you go.
Oh, I remember him.
We're making him proud. I don't think we'd want to, but we are inadvertently. Muska Art asks, "Are you doing this live?" Yes, this is live.
We are doing it live.
This is as much planning as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about some stuff, some good stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm refreshing myself on currently.
Yeah.
Shaw's had a very busy week. I've had a very busy week.
Yeah, we've been doing the week live, so now we're doing the podcast live.
Coolager says, I heard there was a live show somewhere, but I can't seem to find it.
You know, the full range of how bad I am at reading and pronunciating things is like, and my pronunciation, not me pronunciation, that's pronouncing. Coolinger has been like a friend for a bit, and I've been calling him like Cooldinger for like a year and a half.
Wow.
I kind of like that name. Like I like Cooldinger as like a name.
So just rename yourself because I like this version better.
I'm kind of like with Okabe where he just gives everyone like nicknames. That's like kind of what I did.
Well, I hope you don't do that to me.
No, your name is I'm able to pronounce, so you're safe for now.
Thank God. So this is like a running thing with you. You just give people new names.
No, it's like it's most of the time it's pronouncing them wrong, but then very rarely is my mispronunciation catchy enough to stick. So
you should own it and then just mispronounce it on purpose so you can kind of like, just give people new names.
I would like that. I'd be down with that. I don't know if they'd be down, but
Coolager says I changed my name to Cool Dinger for my first art anime podcast just for you.
I'm blessed. Thank you.
Or Cool Dinger. There you go. Now I mispronounced it. I mispronounced the mispronunciation.
It's catchy. It's catchy.
It is kind of catchy. Cool Dinger. It's kind of cool.
So I'm not sure if this wants to, if my visual novel adventures count as pre-show talk or if their own topic, because I know we were going to group that in later.
No, just bring it up. If you find a natural transition point for it, just bring it up. And then if there's anything in the chat that anyone wants us to talk about, bring it up. Today is your day. Free reign.
For open season.
But
maybe that should be the name of the series. Open season.
But we have the right.
Sundays.
Yeah, open season Sundays. But we have the right to veto.
Yeah.
And if you bring up bad opinions, they can be
roasted.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say criminalize and trivialize, but yeah, roasted.
I don't know if you saw this. My friend Tanik, he did a stream where it was like he's on Twitch and he did a stream of like submit your hot takes to me, but you have to like explain why, and you can't just do like this thing greater than this then. And and he went through and he would like read them out, and then he would ask the chat like, okay, good take, hot take, or like awful take.
Yeah.
And there's this one mutual we have. His name is Rick Pizza. And I don't know if you've seen him around or not. He has like it's like a heavily edited profile picture of foes with like different characters on them. And he just has like the most ridiculous takes I've seen. And I'm still not entirely sure how much he means it, but he has a reason behind it. So like, it's that like, are you trolling everyone or is this just how you are?
It could be a really good devil's advocate.
Yeah, he's like the peak devil's advocate. And then he had an entire thread of just his takes. And like, to give you a taste of one, it was like, Monogatari is good because of the voice actors. In fact, I don't even watch it. I just listen to them and rank my characters based on their voices.
No.
Yeah. That was like his second take. And like, my friend Tanik's favorite anime is Monogatari. So he's like...
And I just did a video on it, so it's very super fresh in my head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw yours, and I saw one comment. I saw your video, and there was one comment that was mean, but like, if it was on someone else's video, I would find it funny.
Was it the touch grass comment?
No, but it was along those lines.
Oh, wait, no. Was it the comment that was like, it's videos like this that make me want to stop watching anime?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, I just responded to him today. I just said normie.
Normie. That's so funny because that's where you get the bridge of like, why do you spend your time doing this? And it's like, go away. I don't care about you. Like, stop it.
It's all good. Yeah, no, there was one that was just like touch grass.
That's see,
and I was like, this sounds like okay. And
wait, did you actually get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends?
Yes, unironically. You
actually did?
Yeah.
I was like, are you joking with this? Because this is a meme, but you actually got sponsored by them? I'm so glad I got to wait to ask you this.
When I told a friend, he just started laughing hysterically, and then he was just like, I'm happy for you, but he also just kept laughing.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
We could talk about that, but I just want to answer Roger Smith if he's still on. Yep. He asked me, "Have you watched What's Michael yet?" This is a reference to that me finding my top 50 anime series that I was doing, like streaming a few months back. Because he told me about this old anime that came up, like it was in the 1980s called What's Michael. Apparently, it's like very weird. And he told me to watch it, and I said I would. And to answer your question, I have not yet. I meant to, but I forgot.
He's been doing our podcast homework very diligently, and I have not. So you get the pass for not watching this.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely true. Yeah. So should we start the show? Is everyone cool?
We can do that.
Has everyone taken their seats? Yeah. Is our audio good? Do you have any complaints? Let us know in the next 15 seconds, because that is the requirement for the lag, delay. So I can see your comments.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I will sip this water.
I didn't get to watch your Monogatari video yet, but
But you got to read the mean comments.
I did see the mean comment, and I was like, I don't want to. I was like, this is mean, and then I realized if someone else made this video, I would find that funny. So if someone told me to do that too, I'd be like, okay, good game, but like I'm not going to touch grass.
Yeah, I mean, I could like. I wonder if I played my own video, if I would get flagged. That's all right. We don't need to watch it.
Oh, that would be wild.
I need to know. I think I knew you didn't watch it because I think you would be pissed off at my tier list if you did watch it. So I would have heard something.
What if? No, I'm gonna. Well, I saw the comments and I saw one. I saw that you put someone was like Nautico and Karen in C tier, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good tier list. Okay, that's good. So I was kind of like, I knew the outrage was like not gonna be there because you put Karen in C tier. So I was like, good tier list. We're good.
but Nautico in C tier.
But she's not a waifu, so like
that's true. Oh,
you shouldn't be.
You're smart. There you go.
Oh yeah. No, see, I knew that you would not let me down in this.
I had a line there that I just took off because it was just obvious. But where I said, if like at the end, like if this was based on writing alone, you know, some characters would be much higher.
Yeah.
Except Guyan, because fuck Guyan.
I was talking to my friend who has Guyan top 10, but they don't have Nautico or Sodachi.
What do you mean? Like not in top 10?
Of their favorite characters in the show. But they have Guy in there.
I think I put Sodachi in D tier
As a waifu or character?
as a waifu.
Well,
As a
that's like
character, she'd be higher up.
Yeah, but they were doing like favorite characters, and I was like,
Oh.
but like, what about? But Guyan doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I mean,
Guyan is like when I get, when people complain about the Monogatari monologues, and then you're kind of like, well, dialogue is. Then you want to like defend it. When I hear Guyan going on Monogatari monologues, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I get the
you know
complaints.
everything. All right.
Yeah, like shut up. We don't
So
care.
Guyan was on there, but not the other two, is what you're
Gotcha.
saying. Okay.
Yeah,
Right?
and I was like,
Yeah.
I was like explaining why I like Nadeko so much, and they're like, sounds like they just kind of suck. And I was like, yeah, but that's the point.
You got to separate. I think I learned this also from our Nana tier list a week ago. It's just like, you got to like put it in boxes. Like, are we talking about the writing, or are we talking about like in real life, would I want to deal with this person?
I think most of my favorites I would not want to deal with in real life.
Yeah.
But that's why it's cool to
said-
experience fiction.
Shaw brought up VNs earlier, so here's a question. How many times have you watched an anime you enjoyed so much you went back to play the original visual novel? I think we can get to this in the pod, right?
Yeah. I guess, is this the time? Is now
I
the
think
visual
we should
novel?
get into it. And then
Okay, so
we'll
I
loop
think-
back, because I think this will relate.
Yeah. Yeah. This will relate. So my favorite anime.
Wait, are we starting?
Yeah, I guess we're starting.
Wait, let me
Okay.
just do the whole intro
sorry.
bit.
Sorry, guys, we're starting now.
Yeah, we're starting. Let me do this. All right. We have a tune. Okay. Hey, welcome to the Just Weebs podcast. This week, me and Shocking are doing it live. We are talking about various topics live, as we do every week. But this week we have quite a few different things that we wanted to talk about, as well as we're opening it up to the chat if they have anything they want to bring up. But some of the things we already have on hand that we do want to cover is seasonal anime burnout, anime scams. There's one specifically that I'm thinking of that came up this week in recent kind of news. There was some discussion around it. So just want to give our thoughts on that, or just to talk about it. And then lastly, we're touching on, finding or switching from manga to anime, which I'm sure, from the anime to the manga, which I'm sure every anime fan can relate to. So we'll be talking about that. But to kick it off, let's talk about that seasonal anime burnout. When I brought this up, or I thought of this, I was thinking of kind of like watching anime every season, like keeping up with every season. It's just more and more anime. Now that it's kind of picking back up, it's like 50 new animes every season. Do you ever feel like it's just at some point it starts to become like a chore, to kind of, you're suddenly the new season came, you're kind of behind, you're still finishing or binging kind of like what just ended the last season. Like, how do you feel about it, Sha?
I think it's kind of inevitable that I think you get burnt out on it if you follow a bunch of them at once. And I think it's also like, it depends on how many you're watching, but it's also that idea that you have to keep up with every seasonal and then kind of follow up on them if you want to be like in the conversation. That gets really tiring after a while. Yeah. But it is like there's two sides of it, because I was like looking back at some of the old podcasts I did on like our anime podcast, where I would be like on 3 out of 4 seasonal podcasts every year. So I'd be keeping up with it. That was back in like the 2016, 2018 time. And there are like some really kind of like fun elements to following that many series, because you always get the standout shows of the season that people will remember years down the line. But you do have some shows that are really kind of perfect as seasonals, and you watch them during that season and then you never think about them ever again. Like, you won't recommend them, you won't really think about them, but like for following those weekly for like a couple months, those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I get that feeling, because I feel like with seasonal anime, sometimes because, you want to watch something, especially consistently, to have something nice to watch every week, you kind of lower your standards a little bit. You're kind of like, normally, if this show is finished, you come in with higher expectations, but because new seasons are a toss-up, you're like, okay, as long as it meets this minimum criteria of interesting, or as long as it's fun, because I want something every week, that's kind of like what you'll settle for. But do you have any examples maybe top of mind of one that like you really enjoyed during that season?
Yep.
And then afterward, you're like, okay, whatever. You don't even talk about it.
My go-to pick for that was back in, I think it was still 2016. It was Kisniver, that Trigger series that we love the opening for, that we talked about in the OP video. If you haven't seen that, check out our OP video talking about openings. That one was really cool watching weekly because it was also an original. So no one had any idea how it would turn out. There were no source readers, no spoilers. It was all just theories. And it was a really quirky romance drama about, a bunch of teenagers are, part of an experiment where they can feel each other's feelings. So like, if someone's going through heartbreak, everyone feels it. Like no one could really hide their emotions. And they had some kind of complicated, backstory with how they were all related to each other in different ways. And it was kind of like, I don't know, the Mario Kata like melodrama that you see in a lot of series mixed with the Trigger over the topness and unique character designs. And they came together in a really cool way. And it was a really cool experience just to see how it all played out. Would I recommend it to people now? Possibly, but in very niche capacities. I'm not going to be like, hey, 2016, the best show I saw, Kisniver. I'm going to recommend something else. But following it weekly was a really fun time because you had no idea what would happen. And it was just a ton of fun to watch that every other week. Well, I think
that's the case with a lot of anime originals, just not knowing what's going to happen and not having anyone being able to tell you, well, this happens in the manga or this falls off later in the manga, or just, kind of not spoiling, but at least kind of giving you an indication of where it's going to go, because it's such a toss up. That makes it fun. But then when it's all said and done, it's like, okay. But also I feel like you can recommend that anime in a capacity of like, okay, there's an anime that did that, that did this concept. So if you're looking for this specific concept, here it is. This exists. But besides that, I mean, I thought it was fun. I feel like the anime, like it was an experiment. I felt like that was an experiment for Trigger. Like,
yeah, definitely.
And I felt like in some ways that was kind of like a base template for Darling in the Franxx. Like the slice of life, the connecting part, the slice of life part.
When you think about it, maybe it shouldn't have existed in the first place. But
wow, that's a lot of hate right there.
A lot of hate. What's the one of like, it's the Jake Paul meme where he was watching like a Cody Co video. He's like, I don't know how someone could have that much hate in their heart. That's like me every time talking about shows I don't like.
Yeah. But Cool Dinger in the chat, or Coolager, said, watching an anime with a mindset, I want to watch this, is much better than watching an anime with the mindset, I have to watch this. Well,
110%.
I feel like, when is that the case of I have to watch this? Only like, I guess when you want to keep up with the hype, like something's like popular, or when it's a sequel. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think also when you, I don't know, when that's the thing, that's like a big complex I have, is like, I never want to watch a show where it feels like a chore, because then I know it's not going to be as enjoyable. Like, I don't want to put that pressure on myself. I want to be like spontaneously come to the idea that I want to watch something. And as long as I'm curious about something, I'm going to watch it. But that's why, like, when a lot of people are like, you need to watch One Piece. Why are you consuming anything but One Piece right now? Like, One Piece is going to be the best thing you're ever going to see. And I'm like, well, if you guys are telling me to do it, I don't want to do it. I have to come on my own terms to be like, I want to watch One Piece or read One Piece. So
I'm actually like the opposite. I'm very susceptible to that. Like, if friends like tell me like, bro, you got to watch this, it's so good. And I kind of know my friends. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. But then, if it doesn't live up to it, I'll give them shit for it. But usually it does. It's like, okay.
That's a healthy thing.
I don't get around to it quickly, but maybe after enough time of them telling me, and watch it. It depends. But I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
In terms of, I'm trying to see in the chat. It says Tommy Police says, finding diamonds in the rough while they're airing is a great experience, like Odd Taxi. But if it starts feeling like a chore, especially as a fellow anime podcaster, it's better to take a step back.
Yeah. And that's why I haven't been on the seasonal impressions for my other podcast as much, because I would be like in the weeds watching like all of these shows. And then I would be like, no, I don't want to watch that other show that's obviously going to be shitty, but I should watch for the sake of it, Yeah.
Now, when a new season starts, do you find yourself like, can you ever go a new season, like let's say this new season or maybe next season, like not watching anything, like just like not watching anything at all?
I think I'll always watch at least one show from the season, especially if enough people talk about it. That sparks my curiosity and FOMO. And then I'm like, I got to see what's going on. Who knows if I end up finishing it, but I will start it.
Because
Are
part
you
of it, I
into
think,
it?
is a big part of it is that social aspect, just kind
Yeah.
of knowing, hey, what's kind of happening in the community, just being involved, sort of just being, seeing the reactions.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you get like, at least what I've seen, like a lot of disappointments. Because then if there's like, let's say an anime that starts off like really, really strong, which happened this year, and it's an original, and like people are already like predicting like this is gonna be the anime of the year. It's gonna be amazing. Like nothing can top this. And then like somewhere in the back of my head, I'm thinking we've been burned before. This could,
Yeah.
This could possibly be one of those like it's gonna drop the ball later, but no one can like predict that at the moment. And then when it does, it's like, oh, like it's like there's so much disappointment.
Well, I had that happen many times with I remember the OG big anime disappointment for me was when I started watching consistently in 2016 and we had Erased, which came right after One Punch Man. And after One Punch Man dropped in winter of 2015, everyone was kind of looking for that next big thing to carry them over because it got so many people into the community. And Erased was looking to be that next big thing that had a lot of like mainstream appeal. It was like very intense. And for the first 10 episodes, everyone was like fully on board with the show. And then it kind of tapered off in the last 3 episodes because people found it disappointing, whatever. And that was kind of considered like, it was easy, like anime of the year contender. And then it broke apart. So ever since experiencing that kind of combustion weekly, I've been a lot more, I've been a lot more reserved and like cautious when it comes to shows that people get hyped up for anime of the year. So when that happened with Wonder Egg Priority, the first episode dropped and people were like, this is going to be a 10. And I was like, nope. We've been there before. You can't say that this is going to be the best thing of the year based on 1 or 2 or even 3 episodes. You got to chill out, take a backseat, and wait and see how it turns out.
It's hard to call it that early.
Yeah. And people disappoint themselves because they get really hyped up. And not just for like a normal show. They want it to be the show. And when it doesn't turn out to be the show, then they're like, okay, this was terrible. And it's like, realistically, I'm not talking about Wonder Egg because I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But realistically,
I can vouch for that.
You can, yeah. And maybe Wonder Egg is a bit different, but I think with Erased, what ended up happening is like, because it wasn't a 10, it was almost like a 1 for some people. And realistically, it's like somewhere in the middle.
I mean, I enjoyed Erased. I didn't even know it was so like hated, or I don't know, like people were as down on it until like recently, actually.
Oh, really?
Like I don't know. Like I do remember being a little disappointed by the ending. Like I think I think I jumped into the manga, read the manga ending too, and like
I did too.
Yeah, and they were both kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
like not as great. But I didn't have like as many issues that like with people that unraveled so many like plot holes in the show and all these things that were up with it. I was like, it was a little disappointing, but that was kind of.
I think people had a good point because there are a lot of bad points to dislike Erased. I don't know if we've talked about it, but you see a lot of online points that are like, she didn't wait for him in the coma, therefore it's bad. Like those are those are really stupid reasons.
And I didn't have an issue with that. Like, I mean, that stung, but I understood it.
Yeah.
At the time, I think.
Yeah, and like I think the people who had the point that it was predominantly a like character story about him and the girl and like him saving her from the abusive situation, that was a lot more compelling than the overall mystery, which ended up being kind of obvious. Once it switched into being more of the mystery aspect and not like him saving her, that's when it went downhill a bit because it wasn't as captivating or wasn't as compelling. I think that's a good reason compared to like my ship didn't sail or whatever.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I was interested in the mystery, but I could see, where just the maybe the mystery wasn't that strong from the beginning, and maybe the other thing was distracting from the mystery not being strong, and then it's like, oh, now it's center stage, and now it kind of falls apart.
Yeah, and I can see that like the shift in focus is a bit iffy, but either way, I don't think the ending diminished from the good episodes that came before it that much. Like. It wasn't as good, but I don't think it was just like, I don't think it was awful. Would I recommend Erased today? Probably not. But when people look back on it and are like, oh, awful series, I'm like, not really. Most of it was fine.
It was your standard seasonal anime.
Yeah.
Going back to feeling like you at least should check out one thing, when a new season starts. So like, if you didn't watch anything at all, like in a new season, just completely didn't feel like watching anything.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you would still be an anime fan? Like what counts Like if you're not watching anime regularly, I mean, like when you've been doing the seasonal grind for like a few years, I think it's hard to say, oh, I didn't watch anime for a season. I'm not an anime fan. But like for people that purposely don't even keep up with seasonals, which, you know, now boggles my mind. It's weird that it does now. Like when like, oh, you're not watching seasonals. But like, can you still be an anime fan or count as an anime fan if you just like, I don't know, watched a few anime a few years back? You're like, oh yeah, I like anime. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really like gatekeeping what makes someone a fan. Besides the, like, earlier in the week, people were saying, it was like Ninja and other like gamers were saying like the Chimera Ant arc was the worst arc in all of anime. I'll gatekeep them because it fits my agenda, and that pisses me off. But in general, towards the like greater community, I don't like gatekeeping like as if you need to meet certain qualifications to be a fan. If you're saying like you like the medium, I'm like, dope, welcome aboard. But I think it's I think you get into the issue where some people, I don't know. I think it's tough because I don't have any issue with people who only watch older series, and I also don't completely have issues with people who don't watch newer series, but I do have an issue when people who are only watching one or the other speak about the other without having experienced it. Like if you're only watching 80s series and you're like, new anime are terrible and they haven't consumed any of the newer anime that have come out in like the past 5 years, then I have an issue. But then if you're also a newer anime fan and you're like, old anime look terrible, and you haven't watched any of the older ones, then I also have an issue. It's kind of like recognize what you're consuming and speak on that. Don't try and overstep when you don't have that much experience with a certain time period, genre, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to get to a few comments in the chat. One Piece is something you watch when you don't want the opposite of the Netflix scrolling problem. You know, fuck choices, just watch One Piece or work. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's good to have it on in the background. But then again, with subtitles, that's hard.
Yeah.
And then Roger Smith chimes in with, I usually wait for the season to end, and then I end up picking up stuff like Gekidol. Then I spend most of my other time watching these random old shows and OVAs.
Yeah, goat moves.
Yeah, but like, what if they're like in your shoes where like most of the seasonal stuff, you end up thinking, you know, this 6 out of 10, you know, nothing really outstanding. But what if they get that all the time, you know, like every season, there's nothing really stand out for them. And then I guess, then is it fair for them to be like, you know, I'm keeping up with seasonals, but there's nothing like the old stuff?
I think that's fair because I think you just have to give it a shot because the way the natural progression of the conversation goes is like, I don't like any of the new stuff. It's like, oh, what have you watched? And then if they're like, nothing, you're like, okay, the conversation ends there because you haven't checked out these series that are considered good. If they're like, I don't like any of the new stuff, what have you watched? And then you list all the things that people would generally recommend and you still don't like them, then it's like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Because like I imagine the conversation going something like, okay, like it keeps getting older and older, but it's like nothing good has come out in the past 5 years. And then you're like, well, have you seen Rakugo? And then if they still say yes and I don't like it, it's like, okay, what's another good show that you could probably pick on that like a lot of people consider like standouts of the past 5 years? Like, you know, you think of those down the line, like, oh, have you seen Hoseki no Kuni? Have you seen Beastars? Have you seen Made in Abyss? Have you seen
which I just started watching season 2 of Beastars. So.
I didn't finish it because I got I had to, well, now it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. That's why I started watching it.
Yeah. Do they still call Lewis Ruis?
Yeah. So wait, that's not new? That's not new.
I think they had that in season 1, and that's why I didn't watch it on Netflix. And
I was so confused. I'm like, why is Lewis Ruis and why is Haru Hal?
I kind of messes with that. Might be enough to mess with me to the point where I don't watch it on Netflix. And I just download it.
But I feel like I watched season 1 on Netflix before. So like, was that the case for season 1?
Yeah,
also?
they did. I remember that.
Fuck. I don't remember that.
That like messes with me. And I was like, oh, I mean, I'm not a subtitle expert, but can we just like not do that? Like, it's obviously not set in a traditional Japanese setting where his name would be Ruis. It's obviously Lewis.
Yeah. It's really weird.
I kind of hate that a lot.
Rudy has chimed in. According to Jeff, I think Mother's Basement, more shows were made in the past decade than all the old anime before it. So theoretically, you can just cut off seasonals for a year or two and watch all the old shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I heard that too.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I think, and then how are you feeling about this season? I
haven't even started this season because I'm in visual novel hell, and
I only watched Slime season 2, the second episode, 2 episodes, and Dragon Maid 2 episodes.
How is Dragon Maid so far? That's the one I'm gonna watch.
I like it. It's cute. There are some elements where, you know, it's a little, you know.
I heard That's
Yeah.
what I heard about. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's cute.
yeah, because it's well, I saw that I'm automatically watching it.
Let me be fair. It still has the the found family, heartwarming aspects are still there. They're still prevalent, but it's paired with
Accessory.
yeah, that's kind of it.
I saw that Kana says shocking, so I'm definitely watching it and giving it at least a
Yes,
7 for
actually,
that alone.
So I was pairing. So I think I went to watch it after I saw that on Twitter, and then I was paying careful attention, and I still fucking missed it. So I
No.
went back, and I was like, oh, that's so perfect. That's awesome.
And she's always been my favorite. Like I normally don't find like the child characters really cute, but she's like the cutest thing all time.
Yeah, I think you two vibe, so it works out.
It's like my dragon child. Give
But
me.
I do want to hear about your visual novel journey. But before we get to that, let's talk about anime scams. So like people in the chat know, like, okay,
we're gonna scam everyone by teasing visual novels and be like, no, just kidding. We're talking about scams.
No, we're talking about our new Kickstarter, right? Where we're gonna not give you anything, but you can donate.
You can give us money, but we will not give you anything in return. No. My friend Loki did that to a group of people, but like I don't think it was in the intention.
You sure you want to put your friend out on blast here like that?
Yeah, because it's not an anime related one, so it's fine.
Okay. So what we're talking about is this week, this suddenly just came up on my Twitter feed all of a sudden. I had to look into it because like it said something about AnimeTube, and maybe some people in the chat are familiar with it already. And I thought it was like something about AniTube. So I was like, yo, what the fuck? Who's talking shit about us? And then I went to look into it. And it's like, oh, it's something else. Okay, we're good. But then I kept like reading, like, I think there was like a few articles and what it is like, and Shai, you can give more details if you know more than me on this.
I cannot. I have no details, so I'm relying on you.
So it was about, I think, like it's a Kickstarter campaign to start a new streaming service that legit claims that it'll be completely free, that all these other like streaming services like Crunchyroll, Amazon, Netflix are lying about how much these licenses actually cost, that they're saying, oh, it's hundreds of millions for a license, and it's actually not that expensive. They can get it for far cheaper, and because of that, they can get all these anime and make it free for everyone to watch legally. And that's it. It's gonna like, and a ton of people were like, yeah, this is awesome. We knew it, and then the Kickstarter got like $110,000 in like 2-3 days. And then every time like some other streaming services have challenged them on something that they claimed, because they said, oh, we're already working with, Japanese or like with the license holders or whatever to kind of get these anime. Like the other streaming services have been like, no, you're not. Like this isn't, we have those licenses. How can you get them? It's like, oh, and they come back with some like lame excuse saying like, oh, you don't know, we're speaking directly to the Japanese license holders. So obviously you wouldn't be privy to that knowledge yet. And then I don't know, they keep like coming up with different, rebuttals that kind of seem weaker and weaker. So
yeah,
that's what that is. That's AnimeTube.
And did they get exposed for being like full of shit, or has that not been exposed yet?
Hasn't been completely exposed. I think their Kickstarter's still going, and
like they haven't said like, LOL JK, we didn't do it. Like there are people out there that still believe that AnimeTube will happen.
Oh yeah, no, they're still trying to defend themselves and saying no, we actually have a legitimate claim, and this is for real. This is, the licenses are not that expensive, and AnimeTube is going to be, what we say it's going to be. So most of the kind of people in the industry that know about this stuff have spoken up on it and kind of given their 2 cents and like, say it's probably a scam. So I just think it's interesting how these like scams happen. And then it's like, it sounds too good to be true. And then all these people are kind of like buying into it. So
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of wild just because, I mean, I know from common sense that it's not happening because licenses are expensive. And I know because my friend, my bestie, Tay, is a lawyer who would, knows about this stuff. So they would also be able to tell me it's not happening. But it's also just like such a far-fetched like thing that's obviously not going to happen.
Yeah,
like they obviously can't do that because if they could do it, everyone would do it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just like it just sounds like very far-fetched, and I think the mind-boggling part is that it's managed to garner, so much kind of like a buy-in when I don't know. It's like if it was that easy, or if it was that, like, that not expensive, then I think either someone would have done it a long time ago, or it
Yeah.
wouldn't have. I don't know. Like, I feel like, yeah, like it wouldn't. It would have either already been done, or this information would have been made public knowledge so much
Yeah.
longer ago. So
Yeah, I think it's like this is kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, first, the most infuriating part of this is that they are called AniTube, AnimeTube, and I keep thinking they're AniTube.
I think it might be like more of a spin on YouTube, like YouTube,
Yeah.
AnimeTube.
I keep thinking it's like trying to say AniTube, and it's not. So I keep thinking it's like AniTube slander, and then it's not, and then it confuses me, and that frustrates me the most.
Yeah.
That's like the worst part for me, because I just know it's like full of shit. I mean, I feel bad for the people who are like sending their money to them, but at the same point, it's like they're obviously not going to do it. So like,
Yeah.
don't throw your money at random Kickstarters that do not seem likely.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think like something like that would gather that much attention at this point in time. But I think a lot of people are very frustrated. I think it comes from a lot of frustration
True.
with streaming services, with Funimation, like the Player, Crunchyroll. I mean, some frustrations and some criticisms I think are valid. Some are just kind of ridiculous. But I think, I think the accessible, like, anime is so accessible now that it's like, it's just, maybe it's split across like so many different platforms that it's like, I guess that's where a lot of the frustration comes.
Yeah,
But
there is that sense of frustration of like, I'm paying for these streaming services and they don't have everything I want and they're tough to use. Like, I go on periodic rants against Funimation. Like, I've never, like, nothing pisses me off more in the world than Funimation's streaming service that doesn't work. Like, I've tried 3 different times to have a Funimation account, and it either does not work because like the show won't show up, it'll buffer the whole time, or just won't work in general. So like, I made this one tweet that I'm of like, who had a tougher time, Sisyphus pushing a boulder up the cliff for eternity, or an average user trying to make the Funimation player work?
damn, that's savage.
I'm pulling out Greek. I'm pulling out the philosophy references.
Sisyphus would have preferred, dealing with his boulder than the Funimation
I think
player.
he made more headway than anyone using Funimation's streaming site.
Every time I'm gonna go like to watch something, I usually watch it on like an Apple TV, like on my TV, and it's like I have to cross my fingers that like a new episode comes out and that it'll play. It's annoying.
And that's why I was so pissed off that they're joining services, Funimation and Crunchyroll. And I think it's Funimation's site that's buying Crunchyroll. So in my head, I'm like, are they going to stick with the Funimation player, or are they going to use the Crunchyroll player? And the Crunchyroll player, for all as much shit as people give it, at least it works. Like, my bar is in hell. At least it works. Funimation stuff does not work.
It took them a while to kind of finally like up it, like to improve it. But as long as they're using that money or whatever they're generating to kind of put it back into making the services, more user friendly or easier, or more consistent, that would be awesome.
Yeah, but I think you're right that it does reflect a lot of frustration with the current legal streaming sites, that people are willing to put their money and faith in a pipe dream that they could just have a free, well-working streaming service rather than the stuff we currently have, because a lot of the ones we currently have just really suck. And that's why, as much as people want to support the industry, there are a lot of means that are there are a lot of barriers that make it tough to support the industry. And a lot of it does come down to like, the catalogs don't have the full range of shows people want to watch. They don't work like Funimation, like they just don't work, or they're also not available in your country. So like, for a lot of, we're in a country that is fortunately has a lot of access to these series, but if you're in a third world country and you legally cannot get them and you still want to watch them, why would you spend $500 on a Blu-ray on a chance of liking a show? It's just not reasonable or purposeful. And the market definitely needs to recognize how accessible this is worldwide, and they need to accommodate. Otherwise, they will continue to lose money to pirating. Especially with how many anime are coming out each season, more and more, how much crunch there is to get these anime out, how much the animators are not getting paid. So if like this service is free,
how are these people going to, getting paid?
Yeah,
Like
they're barely getting paid now.
Yeah.
With it legal, how are they going to get paid otherwise?
Exactly. The industry needs to be generating enough money to at least try to have a leg to stand on to convince them, hey, pay your animators more, pay your workers more. And then in terms of the Tommy Police here says in the chat to give us insight on distribution licenses are still a big problem for those of us outside North America or Europe.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Like and that's the thing is we're not even talking about like spend all this money on a Blu-ray for a show you like. We're talking about rolling the dice to see if you do like the show and if they would be worth the Blu-ray, you know?
I mean, one cool thing that I kind of noticed being done recently, I don't know if it's been done before, maybe it's not as new as I think, but I saw on YouTube, I think Funimation was like premiering like certain anime episodes for free. Like,
oh, that's kind of cool.
This past season.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a promotion for one particular anime, but they had like the whole first episode premiered and you could just watch it and you didn't have to have a Funimation license.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. I know that like, I think Steins Gate is for free on the Funimation site on YouTube. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's the 1080p Blu-ray version, but I think you can go up to 720.
Yeah. And like, and then I guess on this whole topic about, distribution licenses, seasonal anime burnout, this kind of the whole thing. Have you ever been tempted to like just switch to manga? Just, just go from anime and just kind of like just reading manga is just easier, because a lot of times with the manga, because the big problem with seasonal anime in general, which could cause burnout, is you won't get the closure or the ending for many years to come, if it ever does get adapted.
Yeah, I tried having a manga arc like last year because I wanted to have favorites from manga that weren't like completely related to anime. So like because I did do the typical song and dance back when it was like, I think Haikyuu season 3 came out, where it's like, okay, finish Haikyuu season 3, gonna go read the manga. And I did that with like Hunter x Hunter. I did that with Gintama. So there were a bunch of mangas that I liked because I liked the original anime series, but I didn't have any manga series I liked just as manga. So that's how I got in like to the Promised Neverland. That's how before that anime came out. I tried that. What other ones did I try? I tried a bunch. I did start with Kaguya first. I started Kaguya.
Oh, really?
Manga.
I thought you started with the anime for that. Okay. That's
no, I went back and forth a bit, but I did start.
How
with
did
Kaguya.
So you started with the manga for that?
Yeah.
How did you feel? And this is just me being curious here. How did you feel like first seeing it adapted after you knew, like after you only experienced it as the manga?
I think they did a good job. I think there were some gags that were kind of, I'd prefer one to the other, but I don't think they like messed up by any means. I think they did a really good job. But for season 2, they really kicked it up a notch. Nice. They did like season 2 definitely preferred that content anime, but there are still a few things in the first season where I was like, I think the manga did this a bit better, but both are top tier. No complaints either way. So that was one where I have no complaints on that.
Is there, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Like, are there any shows that like you can go without ever having an anime for, and then the reverse? Are there any shows that you're like you need to see it animated? Like it's just it's not as like it's good, the source material, the story for the manga, but it just feels like one of those like this needs to be animated.
I think for some of the ones that I feel like this needs to be animated, they have to be it depends on for me, it does really depend on the genre. Like, I think comedies work really well as manga because sometimes they get the pacing done right in the manga and they don't for the anime, which I found with Grand Blue a bit. Like, Grand Blue in the manga, I was like, this is hysterical, everything works. And I think there was like, it was a bit off in the anime. So I'm going to just be manga only for Grand Blue. Then for...
Because that makes sense, because I Grand Blue, everyone was raving about it. When it first came out, the anime, like raving about it. Like, I think it was the Tokyo Revengers of that season because everyone was talking about it, but it was like only on Amazon Prime. So it was also like a small crowd that'd be like, oh, watch Grand Blue or something like that. And I had checked out one episode out of curiosity and I expected a completely different show. I don't think I knew what I was getting into. And I watched the first episode and I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't see what all the hype is about. And maybe that's the delivery, like you were saying, maybe it's not.
Well, one of the things that worked really well with the manga for me is it has like really detailed art, which is used to kind of emphasize like if the character is like a main dude who's like he sees like a really hot chick, if she's like really drawn and they like really detailed, alluring way in the manga, that kind of emphasizes like what he's seeing and then leads to more funny comedic scenes. Whereas in the anime, I don't know if they really nailed that as much. Like I saw some of the character designs and they did not work. They did
got
not
a bit
translate
of
well.
that, I think. I mean, that's actually that jarring contrast is what I love about Great Teacher Onizuka.
Yeah.
And even Prison School. They have these like ridiculous, like
it's
amazingly illustrated faces facial expressions that it's just hilarious because you don't expect it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something that's a good example too. Those are similar ones that I would think of.
And by the way, Prison School anime, really good.
Yeah, I really like that. I thought that was really funny. I'm trying to think of one that's like good as like anime only. I think it would be, if it's something that's good as like an anime only, I think it would be something that relies on sound and movement and like even in something like, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know if I have anywhere I'm like, yeah, the manga just like did not work. I feel like everyone's go-to example for that is obviously like Hunter x Hunter, but I still think the manga is good for it. Mm-hmm. I think a series that probably benefits, that helps us get the point across, would be like a Nana situation, where they have so many different scenes of like big turning points being at these concerts. And I think being able to hear them really gives you that sense of like, you know, immersion that you're there. And
I've actually heard the opposite. Not that I'm disagreeing with that, but I heard that like the manga is like, for Nana, is essential reading, you know, as opposed to like the anime. Like, oh, it's nice, but
I mean, I could go either way on that because I loved both. Still,
Weirdy 8 in the chat says Grand Blue's anime was worth it just for the OP. And Muska Art asks, Kids on the Slope.
I haven't seen that one, but I'm sure that counts. I'm sure that would be a great example.
I watched Kids on the Slope when it was airing, and you know it was good. What I didn't like about it, but that's kind of like a seasonal curse, which is it didn't have like a complete ending. Like it just, I didn't have closure, so I jumped into the manga just to see like, okay, where does this leave off with these characters? And I read ahead, and it was like, but then that's not really based on, like, you're asking because the music, you know, and I wasn't really at that point looking for music. I wanted to see where their relationships ended off. So, I mean, I guess the best example I could relate to that for would be Beck, because
seems to fall in a similar category.
Because when I watched the anime, you got to hear all the tracks and all of that. But then like I went to read the manga to read the rest of it, and there was some like apparently some amazing, and I think I already mentioned this in a previous podcast, but like amazing tracks that I couldn't freaking hear for the rest of it. And they were like, this is like life changing. This is the most amazing thing. I'm like, I don't know what it sounds like. And that was kind of a bummer.
I think that's the only time it's tough, because I've seen a lot of action manga that really work well. Because I know a lot of people like the movement more. Like if it's an action series, they want to see it in action. And I've had a good experience with a lot of paneling that conveys motion really well. So I've been on both sides of that. But
my trouble, I think I had issues, especially with shonen manga. One of them actually, what I had a lot of trouble with keeping up with paneling was Tokyo Ghoul Re. I think more so than the first one. It was like, because there was a lot of like movement and action scenes, but it was like heavily inked. I couldn't tell what was going on. Some people said like, oh, you just have to really look closely. But I think I have a hard time with action scenes in manga in general.
It is really tough with some. Like some do a good job, but others do not. And you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at.
Like the My Hero Academia manga, which is actually a very clean, really nice. It's not a tough one. It's a nice illustrated manga. But I sometimes had trouble keeping up with those battle scenes that I had to put in like actual effort when I was catching up like about a year ago to the manga to like really pay attention. Like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to read action panels. This character's here, that's happening. And after a while, I'm like, okay, I get it. But occasionally I'll be like, who just did what? Okay.
That's one of the main beyond, I have many reasons, but that's one of the things that made JoJo Part 7 stand out for me, is like, I don't think I've ever seen a series that has better progression of movement from panel to panel than Steel Ball Run. I think they convey that perfectly, and it's so detailed and it's so complicated, but I never had any issue following where the action was going.
Everyone is just hyping up Steel Ball Run for me so much, and I'm like, I'm just waiting for 2030 to get the Part 7 adaptation, and y'all are just like, no, read it now. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that's cool about the JoJo manga is that they have been colored. So it is like the closest you'll get for now, closer than other series where you read them in black and white. But like Steel Ball Run really does have that like cinematic experience. I was so worried about Steel Ball Run not being as good as people said. And I was so happy that it lived up to expectations. I was just like, I was so worried, and it worked.
I like the author's progression. I feel like he's gradually getting it, and I know I'm not speaking from experience because I haven't gotten to the peak yet, but I'm taking everyone's words for it. It's like gradual. He's gradually getting better with each installment.
Yeah, I will definitely say that, like, because I know some people, they read JoJo and they're like, I cannot imagine giving this a 10. Like, it's too silly, it's too frivolous for me, it's not my cup of tea, I can't imagine it. But I will say it is kind of like the uniqueness of JoJo and the JoJo fights, like that kind of wackiness of powers. But then you actually get those kind of like morally gray, complex characters that you don't really see in earlier JoJo parts. Like, I loved a lot of earlier JoJo characters, but they're not really that complicated. They're not trying to be, but they're also not that complicated. And you kind of get that level of characterization. And that's where you're like, this is like the perfect mix.
Would you believe that Araki is an ENFP?
ENFP? Like us? He's us? He's us. I was like, wait a minute, that's us. I would totally believe it because, he is probably just doing it live every chapter.
It's like, well, actually he does though.
Yeah, he does.
Read his book and he's like literally like, he doesn't know what he's doing going in. Not like what he's doing, but he doesn't plan for it. He likes that feeling of being live. And that's why like he'll forget certain details.
He's my goat. He's just killing it.
But it's definitely unique, and it definitely wasn't my cup of tea at first, but I learned to like appreciate it, and there's certain parts I like about it. But I don't know, I think some people disagree with me on this, but I really enjoyed when he developed stands, I like
stands.
Really
stands
cool.
are great. It's like
some people are like, I prefer ham, I prefer hamon,
Yeah, but those are like, if like 2 out of 10 JoJo fans prefer hamon. Like, so thankfully most people are on the stand like stands. Thankfully.
I'm so glad though that they've been animating every part. That's one of those.
That's the thing though. There's so many horse races in Steel Ball Run. Like, it is a horse race. So like, I think they can do it, but I'm also nervous. But if you want to know a series that like another could potentially dethrone FMAB, like if they do the same quality of adaptation that they've done for the other things, I think FMAB might be off of it.
I want to wait, Sha, and you're doing such a good job of just getting me to go read it.
That's why
the thing is, like, I really do lose investment once I know what's gonna happen, because I think I'm like so like attached to seeing like the twists and turns of a story.
Yeah.
That kind of once I know, it's like then I'm coming in at it with a different lens. It's like, okay, I'm here to like appreciate how they did this, as opposed to I can re-experience the story again, unless I like completely forgot it. So like recently I rewatched Superbad, and I like, not anime, but I completely forgot it. Like, and I just was getting to experience it all over again. I'm like, this is pretty funny.
Yeah, I think it's cool seeing those, like, because we thought they were funny kind of like 10 years ago. Now we're like going back, and there's no like, you're not saying these references with people in class anymore. So now it's just like, oh yeah, I'm watching this as a normal movie. Yeah.
And it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
There was actually some stuff that I didn't pick up on, I guess because I was too young, and now I'm like, oh, hey, I relate to that.
Yeah. That's like the best kind of worst feeling. You're like, how did I not pick up on this?
Weirdy said Naoki Urasawa wrote his own songs for 20th Century Boys, came with the manga volume, which later got used in the live action movie. That's actually pretty dope. Like,
that's pretty
impressive.
cool, actually.
Because my thing is, like, I was thinking about this recently because Nana's been in my mind.
Nana ruining my week. Like, TBH.
You can get to that in a second. You got to tell people how it's been ruining your week. But Nana, like, I think it's one of those manga that, it's not about the music. Like, it is about the music, but it's not like the most important fact. And that's what I think is amazing about it, that whenever it gets an adaptation, they can give it a whole completely new soundtrack and it won't affect the story, because you'll notice, and I could be wrong, but like, you'll notice that they don't really name drop the songs.
Yeah.
They don't really focus on what the sound is like. Yeah. It's just a backdrop to kind of like let the relationships and everything kind of play out and kind of like deal with their lives. But then that leaves it open to kind of having any interpretation for how they, like, to a certain degree, Nana's like punk and it's that aesthetic.
They do have to, they include the comment that like Trappist vocalist Riri, she has like a very like everyone loves her voice, perfect voice, like voice of an angel kind of thing.
You just called her, I'm sorry to do this. You just called her Riri.
Yeah, I'm calling her that. That's her new name.
That's her new name. Just new name. Care. She doesn't deserve her actual name.
Dead to me.
I can get behind that. I agree.
Because she makes me at her actions. But like her voice is like the Evanescence voice. Like that's their sound. Like they kind of clarified that like they sound like Evanescence, which is their thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like Goth Nana, she is very charismatic and she has a good voice, but she doesn't have like the best voice. So it's a bit more harsh. So like that's as far as they go. But yeah.
Like that gives it enough like parameters, but it leaves it vague enough that you're like, okay, but you know, you can still make your own thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, because then that shows what the importance of the show is there. And then for other shows are more into the nitty gritty of the music, which that has its own appeal.
Yeah.
And then other comments I want to get to before we get to your story about how Nana's been ruining your week. Tommy Police says, I can get behind action and comedy manga with a lot of movement, but stories about music without the music is something I really can't stand. Yeah. There you go. That's, don't read Nana then. No, read Nana. Read Nana and come back.
Read Nana and
Tell
report
us what
back
you think. Jose here in the chat with a hot take. In all honesty, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood should have been dethroned already if the fans weren't review bombing every other series that takes the first Mal spot.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say because this most recently happened with talks about like Fruits Basket's last season, and everyone's like, oh, it's the FMAB fans. Correct. But let's not pretend that FMAB fans are the only ones review bombing series. You know, there are a lot of other fans of other series that are in the top 10 that review bomb it so their favorites will be above. And I'm talking about like Attack on Titan, Hunter x Hunter, Gintama, fandoms that I am a part of that I recognize do have really petty tendencies, like review bombing a show they haven't seen. Like it's everyone. It's not just FMAB fans. Like they get the most flack because they're the most successful, but it is like that whole culture of like, there's no way this shoujo should be in the top 10, let alone the top 1.
I'm with you, Jose. It's the FMAB fans. We got to take them down. No, I'm just kidding. And then to answer, I've got diarrhea in the chat. We did not switch from anime to manga. Not yet.
I like that profile picture.
What was that?
I like that profile picture. It's from the second Soul Eater opening, Paper Moon.
Isn't that that's the scientist?
Dr. Stein.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so that's a great profile picture from a great opening from a very good show. So
with a good opening, yeah.
Props.
Weirdy says Fruits Basket actually went back 6-4, so it's above Gintama now.
Someone asked me earlier, because we haven't seen Fruits Basket, they asked me if I'd seen Gintama the final, because the Blu-ray for that dropped. I've not seen it yet. I'm going to download it, and I'm going to watch it soon. But I expect tears and lots of feels.
I want to binge it, but it's too much for me. I can't do it
yet.
Yeah.
Gintama,
it's too much of an investment. I can't do it right now. Right now, I'm on that K-On! Grind.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, K-On's the immediate grind. Gintama was my training arc for Yumi Neko, which is my training arc for One Piece. So
nice transition. Speaking of source material and grinding and shows that you're binging, do you want to go into Yumi Neko, or do you want to tell us briefly how Nana has been killing you?
I don't have too much to elaborate beyond Nana making me feel depressed for a week. And it's unique because at first I thought I would just be like used to the Nana depression from the anime. But reading the manga was like rediscovering depression. And that was kind of unique.
To be fair to Shaw's situation, I had like maybe 2-3 weeks like of recovery after the Nana manga. So it did live rent free in my head like for a good 3 days where I just was just thinking about Nana. Yeah. And now it's like, okay, I'm cool. So when I went to do the podcast, I was just refreshing on the pain, but No,
but I've had 2 years to get over it and I haven't. So
well, no, but you never experienced the full effect of the manga, and now you experienced it. So
yeah, it's a unique kind of depression.
It got you reading about Justin Bieber, and was I not supposed to say that? I'm sorry.
Wait, I forget. No, I didn't hear what you said. I thought you said
you were saying that it got you so bad that you were reading about like Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez's relationship.
Okay, this is like the lethal combination of like Burnout and then connecting things to real life. Because I mean, historically as a teenager now, I've never really given a shit about Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, like any of that. I've never cared about them. Like they've been in the news. I just don't care. I'm not invested. Then the weirdest combination of reading Nana and then seeing all of these like TikToks and YouTubes of like the conspiracy theory behind like Justin Bieber dumping Selena and then marrying Hailey Bieber and how he's like mistreating her or whatever, like that compounded. And I found all these like old interviews of like all of them talking about each other and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, it's like Nana in real life. Like they're just definitely in the same boat. I was listening to like Selena Gomez songs. I've never been that down bad to listen to a Selena Gomez song. And now I'm like,
I have.
Oh yeah, I do like one. I do like one or two, but I was listening to that which like I needed to lose you to love me, and I was like, damn it, that's Hachi. That's Hachi. She needs that. And it was like, oh.
Listen, this is not a good sell for Nana right now. Now that we're trying to get some people to read it,
I'm doing
just
negative.
Like, hey, if you want to experience Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez's relationship, which you never cared about, read Nana. Read Nana. It'll make you appreciate
don't do that. Nana's is better, but also worse.
People in the chat right now crossing it off the list. Okay.
Yeah, that's like the worst sell. I have very bad sells for series and a very good sells, but I'm not sure if it's Gossip Girl, but good is a good sell. But like, I don't think not a good sell. I don't think
maybe
so.
I don't know.
I don't
some
think
people
so.
like Gossip Girl a lot. I wasn't one of them.
But that's the thing. If you don't like it, I want to get why.
I can't judge people because I watched the Vampire Diaries for a good amount of seasons.
Oh, I watched those too.
Yeah,
I read the book. I'm such a loser. I read the books for Gossip Girl and Vampire Diaries, and I didn't finish the TV shows.
Wow. Well, the shows were loosely based. Well, at least. Vampire Diaries, it was loosely based on the book, so you didn't you didn't miss much, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of good. I was like, I'm good. I think I'm good.
Let's in the chat, we've got Beck sounds like the opposite of Nana in some ways. There's a lot of time spent trying to sell CDs, paying for practice rooms, and the general crappiness of organizing a band. That is Beck. Yeah, like Nana's really not concerned with that. It's really concerned with the coming of age, the day-to-day, and the drama. Jose asks, any opinions on Konosuba season 3, guys? I just heard about that today.
Oh, that came out? They announced that? I continue to have
I didn't hear season 3. I just heard more Konosuba anime in the works. Is that season 3? I think so, maybe.
I haven't even seen the Konosuba movie, so I'm good. I might not see it.
I heard it was good. I didn't watch it, so.
I'm not a big Konosuba fan, so I'm probably going to skip out on that, but that's good that they get, I think their series is ending, so they might get a full adaptation, so that's a win.
Yeah, I'm not a big Konosuba fan either. Like, I've watched both, and I'm not down on it. I've watched both seasons. Yeah. I get it. I get the appeal. Just, I don't know. I don't resonate with it as strongly as other people.
Yeah, I thought it was funny at first, but it kind of got old for me, so that's where I'm at. And
that's why I felt, too. Yeah. Like, it started, like, kind of beating a dead horse for me, but, you know, I feel like I've had people that have told me the opposite, where they just love it. So
some people love it more, and I'm like, that's cool. I could see that too. I'm in the opposite boat, but I mean, I'm happy for fans. I don't hold resentment towards Konosuba for existing. So I mean, that's pretty cool. I
mean, I think I might check out season 3 if it comes out, but I'm not like I'd be more hyped for Mob Psycho 100 season 3 if that's ever coming out. Yeah, because I need that show to end. Muscard says K-On! Is funnier.
I agree.
And Jose elaborates, the light novels are done, if I'm not mistaken, for Konosuba.
I believe they were. Someone used to like message me about Konosuba a lot, and I was like, I don't really care about this, but I appreciate you trying to inform me. So it's very nice of you, but I'm not really invested in this series.
I can't see a comedy because Konosuba is like considered like it's like pure comedy.
Yeah,
I can't see that being a light novel. Like it's just like you're just kind of reading pages and pages of just.
I could see comedy? It. I could see it just being jokes. I could see that. I could see that working.
Okay. I was like, I could see it in manga because you get like the visual, component, but then it's just a light novel. You're just reading kind of text. I don't know. But then again, I've never read a lot of like, I guess, comedy books like exist. But comedy stories.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it's mostly poking fun at anime tropes and or rather light novel isekai tropes.
I was talking about this with my guys on the Best Girl streams that we were doing. Let me know what you think of this. We were talking about how Konosuba and ReZero both kind of came out at a bad time because they were both in a way criticizing and making fun of isekai tropes that didn't become more normal until after they came out. Because like they came out in 2016, then we have like the wave of isekais, and I'm like, I feel like we already joked and criticized the tropes from this like at the beginning, and now we have all this lame shit, and I'm like, these should come later, and then I could appreciate them more. You know what I mean?
So you're saying like, were you guys suggesting that inadvertently Konosuba and ReZero propagated the like more isekai that they were making fun of?
I don't think they created more. I think they were just like, I think that they kind of already existed. Those isekais came out and existed because of SAO the SAO wave.
Well, I also think like they were more prominent probably in light novels that hadn't gotten adapted yet. So they were probably like for example, how we heard about Mushoku Tensei this year and how that was one of the first light novels. And so it had been around for a while, but we had no freaking idea.
That's a good example. It's like, so they came out before Mushoku Tensei, but like that one should come out first as an adaptation, and then we should get Konosuba and ReZero to like
to
make
really
fun of and
appreciate, to kind of get the context, the inside joke. Yeah. Like I get that a lot. Like sometimes I won't get something, I won't appreciate it as much because I don't understand the context. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's valid. I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I liked ReZero for what it was. I guess I didn't see it as, when I was first watching it, as like, oh, this is like a commentary on isekai. I just thought, oh, it's a different take on it. Or maybe I didn't even consider it isekai. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, wait, I had to have, like, the whole beginning is very like Subaru's kind of aware of the tropes in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
But Umineko, let's talk about that.
I have read, so I think I kind of fucked up. I read like one of the entire episodes that's like 17 hours long from like Friday to Saturday night. I think I kind of messed up. Like should not have done that.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to give some background on what Umineko is? I'm sure many of you are familiar. I have no idea.
Okay, so Umineko is the second series in the When They Cry cinematic universe. That's literally the name of the like franchise, is like When They Cry. Higurashi was the first one. Umineko is the second one. And now there's another one. I forget the name of it, but it's like it essentially means cicadas, I think. But they're each an animal. I know Umineko is a seagull. I don't know what Higurashi is. I don't know if that's an animal. So I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, the original is When the Cicadas Cry. That's Higurashi.
Yeah. So that's the cicadas. So this is when the seagulls cry. So there's a lot of animals crying, a lot of people crying, presumably. But so this is the second one in the series. It's essentially a murder mystery, but the entire like premise is like there are these murders happening in these like ridiculous ways that do not seem natural for humans. So they're like, are there witches involved who are using magic to kill people, or can they be explained by humans? Like, how do they do that? So that's kind of like the puzzle that goes about, and you're trying to disprove the existence of witches, but then you're also learning like, okay, what is the nature of magic? What are witches? How does this pertain to reality? And it becomes a much bigger commentary on like storytelling, reality, escapism, magic, love, a lot of like the nature of truth, a lot of big things. So
this sounds so different from Higurashi. Like it just sounds, like it just sounds like it's focused on more of a, and I could be wrong, but more of like a fantasy, mystical kind of aspect, and using that as, again, to deal with these big questions about escapism and reality and all that stuff. Where Higurashi was more focused on like this village and kind of what's kind of going, like it's very tied to that village, and it really didn't extend outside of that, besides like the mystery and the what the fuckness of like what is going on, and I don't understand it. Like it was just a lot of confusion. Not saying that maybe this doesn't have a lot of confusion too, but
this one is confusing, but this is also like, this one's confusing, but it's not like, I don't know. It's a mystery. It's not like Perfect Blue, but then there's still some kind of like, there is still some confusing aspects, but there's also like I would say Higurashi does delve a little into that Perfect Blue territory of like confusing, which is not a bad thing. It's just you really like, you're trying to piece things together, and like some things are still kind of left up in the air. Like I was having a conversation earlier because we're me and my fiance are currently watching the latest Higurashi season, and we were like talking about the recent arc, which is like an answer arc for one of the question arcs, but then we were trying to refresh on what happened last season. But then I was also trying to reference the original, question arc, and then we were just getting confused. Yeah, I think that well, this one does have a question and answer arc as well. So I think that is some similarities between the two. Yeah. I don't know. I've been like semi-curious about Higurashi, but I always thought it was too spooky for me. So I'm not sure if I'll ever.
It definitely has more of that spooky vibe. And this sounds like it doesn't have like a spooky vibe. This feels more like whenever I see you post about it, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like Phoenix Wright to me for some reason.
Yeah. He looks just like him, but it's definitely a lot more traditional murder mystery. And they harken back to like traditional murder mystery tropes.
So is it more like Knives Out, like that kind of vibe?
Yeah, it's exactly like Knives Out. The original like murder mystery, it's kind of like most inspired by is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, where they're all on the island, like invited to this mansion on an island, bunch of murders go down, who did it, message in a bottle that's supposedly telling people what happened. Like a lot of those motifs show up.
Gotcha.
There's just more elements of like, oh, did a witch do this? What's the legend of the witch? Is the witch real? Is she not real? What is the witch? And and it's all coming together. I'm at like, there's 8 episodes. I finished 7, possibly way too quickly, but it's all, I have the one meme of the guy from, what's the one in Emperor's New Groove? Like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. So I've been saying that for like a couple days
like,
now.
it's that good. It sounds like it's, you know, it's gripping you for you to have finished so quickly.
Yeah, I've been kind of like trying to finish it. And then everyone's like telling me like, you got to come up with theories. And it turned out most of my theories were right. But in a weird way, I'm kind of still waiting for like a big twist that I didn't predict to happen.
Will you be disappointed if you kind of just predicted everything?
If I did, yeah, because I was talking about this with my fiance about how I think I'm in a weird boat where I'm kind of down with like I'm down with my predictions not coming true if the alternative is a lot better.
Okay.
You know, that's like, I kind of want that. Like, I don't want to come up with the twist on the same level as the author. Like, I want them to blow my mind because this is their product.
That's not fun. You know, you're investing because you want your mind to be blown. If you saw it a mile away, but hey, man, I've heard so many good things about this that I'm pretty sure, you know, that last episode's gonna be mind blowing. I think it will. I think foresee there are some things I still don't know, and I think those will happen. And at the end of this episode, there was something that was like truly mind blowing, but. You think this is going to be top visual novel material for you? Peak fiction?
I don't know. I read the last one I read was really, really excellent. Like Fata Morgana. Yeah. It's tough to beat Fata Morgana because Fata Morgana is like the entirety of it is the length of 2 Yumi Neko episodes. So it did a lot in a lot shorter amount of time. I think grand total it's like, including the follow-up Requiem for Innocence, I think grand total it's like 40 or 50 hours. This one is like 150 hours. So
wow. Okay. I literally was just questioning whether I should pick up Fire Emblem Three Houses yesterday again. Like
that one's good too. I played that.
I picked up my Switch, but like my aversion to ever playing it is because like
it's so long.
No, because there's just so much of like, for me at least, like the game has a lot of mechanics, a lot of features, a lot of stuff. So you have to like refresh on so much. Yeah. And a lot of your time is spent outside of battle.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't want to fuck up my days because I remember that.
That's the thing.
What you do on your days is super important.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit, I don't remember. I need to remember like what classes I wanted to end up with my characters. Like I had a sheet where I like wrote down like from the beginning like what I want them all to end up as classes. I'm like, I need to find that. If not, I can't play.
So, I remember that. That was kind of like Persona 5 too, where it's like the days matter. You need to plan your life out to make sure you can do all the things.
And that's the most planning I've ever done.
Yeah, me too.
My life.
Like, most planning in general. Yeah, that's where I remember that too. So I have to like, I never did the third route of Fire Emblem Three Houses, but this one is kind of cool.
I'm only on the first one. So.
Oh, yeah. You have the whole game.
I was like, oh, I think I only ever got to chapter 4. And then I was like, oh no, I made it to chapter 5.
Oh, that's at that point you might. If I was at that point, I'd probably start over. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not.
I mean, I was playing it on hard and on classic. So that was also what was taking me forever. And at this point, I'm like, yo, switch to easy. Just get the fucking story. Go another route. Then, knock yourself out with hard.
Life is hard, so I play games on easy mode.
I mean, a lot of the times I just want these stories, but there was a part of it that's like the strategic part that was like, stimulating, but also freaking brutal. But back to Umineko, are you thinking of, once you finish, are you going to revisit, like, do you have to experience Higurashi at all, or no? That's just a separate thing.
I think they're separate, but they have a few connections. They have a few crossovers that would make it more enjoyable, like in certain aspects. Like they're not required, but I think they have 2 Higurashi characters that show up in the game. Yeah. So I would consider playing Higurashi, but I'd still like a maybe, because I told myself, okay, I'm gonna read Fata Morgana, Yumi Neko, Steins Gate visual novels. Then I'm off. I'm good. Like
no more visual novels.
Because it's not even like I talk a lot of shit about visual novels as a medium, mostly in like a lighthearted, self-deprecating way that I can definitely. I would get offended by what I was saying if I liked visual novels, but it's just such a very tedious medium that there's so much time and investment put into it, especially if you want to like consume all of it and you like it a lot. Like I like consuming things quickly, I'm binging through it. I'm like, yo, let's go. So it's just so time consuming, and it's such a so much effort put into consuming these stories that I can't like do this all the time. I can't do this for so many. And most of the time it seems like it's worth the effort. Like it's definitely a unique, one of a kind experience, but I can't consistently do this. I have to pick and choose when I'm gonna drop this amount of time on this stuff.
Yeah. I do have a question about it's a larger question about peak fiction and where do you draw the line on like what, you know, you consume and what you can kind of live with never consuming. But we will save that.
That sounds like a topic for another day. But I'm hoping I will spoil to you because I haven't told anyone else in the Discord channel or yet. I have not given it the Yumi Neko 10 yet. I think a lot of people give it at episode 7. That's when they're like, this is the 10 peak fiction. I haven't given it yet. So we'll see if it gets it. We'll see if it's a high 9. High 9, but we'll see if he gets it in episode 8. Okay,
we'll see. Because if that's like a, I don't know, that's like a, not a red flag, but that's a warning. Like when the episode people have told you, like this is
that's
it.
What I get.
And if that doesn't convince you, that's you know.
But I am very weird like that though. I'm not sure if I psych myself out. I'm not sure what's wrong. But that a similar thing kind of happened with Gintama, where everyone says this one thing is when it's like a 10. And for me, I was like, okay, I'm like on the fence. I'm like about to pull the trigger, but if I have to convince myself it's a 10, it's not a 10.
That's true.
And then the arc after that, which I think people have more grown to love, that's when it became a 10. I was like, this is it. I have the exact moment. This is it. It's a 10. This is it. So it kind of happened still kind of late blooming 10.
It's just different for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll be interested to hear how you feel about it, obviously ambiguously once you're done. So
I still think it's like definitely one of my, like, it's definitely going to be a favorite.
Yeah.
I just hope I can give it that 10. I want to give it a 10 without feeling pressured to give it a 10.
I get that. I think because of our conversations, I've gotten a little more hardcore with my scoring.
Yeah.
You know, like I think I scored like Odd Taxi recently, Nana, you know, because I just finished them, stuff like that. And I was like, you know, I had to think, and I'm like, because part of me also wants my scoring to be consistent, because like there are some shows that are like, you know, when you like maybe at the time you're like, oh yeah, you know what, this was like a 7, and then you think of another show and then you end up putting it at the same category, but you don't put them side by side, and then when you put them side by side, it's like, oh, how can this be a 7 and this be a 7? You know, it's like,
and I was talking about it, and it's like there's so many series that I like really love, but if I have to convince myself they deserve a 10, then they're definitely not a 10. Like I do not need to brainwash myself into thinking Steins Gate is a 10. I know why it's a 10 and why I feel like it's a 10, and I'll be the first person in line to be like, this is why it's a 10. If I don't have that feeling, then like that's a different story. So I think I will. I'm hopeful I'll get there, but I want to have like for myself like no pressure to get there.
Yeah. I'll get there too. But there is a series that I am super curious about that I really want to know what you're going to rate it, what you think. But I need you to finish it, and you know what that is. And the chat will find out eventually, maybe a month from now. Fingers crossed.
And that's like probably the anime equivalent of what I'm watching, where I'm like, of what I'm reading. That's like the anime equivalent of like, I want to give it a 10. I hope it's going to be that 10, but I don't want to feel pressured to get there.
Yeah, no. I don't even.
You're not pressuring me. I just mean internal pressure.
No, and I don't even think it's a 10, but I
nice.
I don't know. I'm just curious. I want to see where we fall. You know, if we're just going to be like completely opposite or in the ballpark, or maybe you're going to be like, no, this is the greatest thing ever, and I'm going to be like, it's okay.
We'll find out. I mean,
we'll see.
Well,
I think we should end it here.
Yeah. It's a good call.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us live. For those of you that didn't join us live, obviously you can hear the audio version of the podcast, but definitely let us know if you enjoyed this format where we kind of did it a little more spontaneously, you know, tentatively being called open season, but we don't really have to call it anything, you know, just kind of various topics. But if you think it should have a name to distinguish it, let us know if you like open season or if you have any other suggestions.
Or any topics you want us to talk about that are not necessarily full podcast length, but could be like 10, 15 minutes that we turn into a full podcast length by accident.
Anything that you're interested in hearing us talk about. We could always do like a poll or something on the Twitter before an episode, kind of getting your thoughts, or maybe a hot takes podcast. You know, hey, submit your reasonable hot take under these parameters, and we'll consider it.
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely open that up on the Twitter. So if you're not following us on Twitter, it is at Just Weebs. And right, it's at Just Weebs, right?
Yeah, at Just Weebs.
At Just Weebs Pod. There you go. I knew I was missing something. And then besides that, definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed. And we'll see you guys next Sunday. We do have something planned for next Sunday, so we'll see you then. Besides that, after all, you know, that was not a great transition. It's like the after all doesn't make sense. But what do we know? We're just weebs.